Okay, everybody, we're going to walk through the very first problem on the worksheet that you have in front of you. And the whole goal is going to be to solve this quadratic by completing the square. We worked on completing the square all day yesterday, and now we're just going to practice it. Because, I mean, that's the best way to learn this stuff is just by practicing. So if you look at problem number one is 1a squared plus 2a minus 3 is equal to 0. Okay? Now what I recommend is to pause the video right now and pull up the step-by-step procedure from yesterday. So that way you can sort of, follow along step by step and you can see what I'm doing, because I'm not going to actually write out, this is step 1, do this. This is step 2, then do this. I've given you the step-by-step procedure. So either write the step-by-step procedure down on a separate sheet of paper or pull it up in Metamoji Note in another app. So that way all you have to do is just double tap the home button and access the notes really quick, and then double tap the home button and then go back to the video. Should be very easy, so however you want to, but you're going to want access to those step-by-step instructions as we go throughout this problem so you can follow and hopefully learn how to do this. So right now, ask yourself, is our equation that we have here, is it in standard form? So what do you think? Is this in standard form? Yeah, so this is in standard form, absolutely, because we can see that all of our terms are on one side of the equation, and it's equal to 0. Remember that our standard form, and just to avoid confusion with this a, which is our variable, I'm going to use capital letters. So remember that standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So right now this is in standard form. But if you look at step 1 of our procedure from yesterday that we went over yesterday, you can see that step 1 says put the variable terms on the left-hand side of the equation and the constant terms on the right-hand side of the equation. So what do I mean by the variable terms? It's all the terms that have a variable. So in this case, our variable's a. So this term has an a, so that's considered a variable term. This has an a, so that's going to be considered a variable term. And this is a constant. It does not have a variable, so I need to put this one on the right-hand side. The variable terms I want to be on the left-hand side. So I want you to take a minute and rewrite this equation with the variable terms on the left-hand side and the constant terms on the right-hand side. So hopefully what you got after you tried that is something that looks like this. So you add 3 to both sides. Since this is a negative 3, we need to add 3 to both sides. And we end up getting a squared plus 2a. We know negative 3 plus 3 is just 0, so that goes away. It's just equal to 0 plus 3, that's just going to be positive 3. Let's just leave the positive out. 3. And now we have all of our variable terms on one side and our constants on the other. So now we can go to step number 2. That says divide all terms by a. And the a that I'm referring to in the step-by-step procedure is this a. Okay, now this a here is the coefficient of x squared, or the variable squared. So we go to our equation and we say, okay, well here's our variable squared. What's the number in front of this? Okay, so we know that the number in front of our variable squared is 1 in this case. Now that's the goal. Before we can start solving this problem by completing the square, we need to have a 1 out here. So really we could skip step 2, but I want you to get into the habit of dividing by that leading coefficient. So even if it's 1, go ahead and divide by it. It's not going to hurt anything, because anytime we divide by 1, it's not going to change our equation. So just divide by 1, divide by 1, and divide by 1. Now, we know that anything divided by 1 doesn't change our equation at all, so we're just going to rewrite our equation and go on to the next step. Now, step number 3 tells us that we need to identify the coefficient of the x term. Now, that's referring to the general form, so we want to find the coefficient of the x term, that is b. So we want to find b in our equation. So we go down here and we find the equivalent in our expression, which is this 2a, which really it may be better to look at this one. It's the 2a. And you can see that the 2 is the coefficient of a. So our variable that is not squared. 2 is the coefficient of a. That's going to be the b in this expression. So our b is equal to 2. And we want to identify that. So we've identified that number. B is equal to 2. Now, if you keep looking at step number 3, it says we want to half it and then square it. So if we half that number and then square it, what do we get? Okay, so if we do that, we'll do 2. Anytime that we half something, we're just dividing by 2 or multiplying by 1/2, however you want to think about it. So half it and square it. So 2 divided by 2, that's just going to be 1. And 1 squared is, of course, 1. So why did we do that step? Why do we need this part? Because this is what we need to add to both sides of our equation to complete the square. So this is the part where we're actually completing the square. When we add this quantity, what we figured out here, we're going to add that to both sides to complete the square. So let's see what that looks like. We've got a squared plus 2a. Now we add the 1 to both sides. That's still my 3, and then I add the 1, and that is the part that we call completing the square. So now our goal is, okay, we want to go on from here to the next step, which is to factor the left-hand side. Okay, we want to factor the left-hand side, and I want you to just try this first. Try this on your own and see what you get, and then you'll be able to check your answer after this. Okay, so let's go ahead and check your answer. So we've already done step number 4, that is adding the 1 on both sides. So step number 4 was add your result from step 3 to both sides of the equation in step 2. That's what we did here. Now we're on step number 5, factor the left-hand side. Now there's a really easy way to factor this. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. Now what I'd recommend is doing it both ways. So try factoring this side of the equation using the method that we covered on Monday. You know, the one where we would multiply a times c and figure out all the numbers that could be multiplied to give me 1, and then I had to select a pair that would add to give me 2, then I'd have to break this middle term up into 2 different terms and then group it and then factor it. You should get the same answer. But let me show you a little trick here. Every time that you complete the square, you're going to have this general form equals, okay, now we've got 3 plus 1 here, that's going to be 4. So every time you complete the square, it's going to have this basic form. It's going to have this basic form where we have the parentheses, you're going to have an x here, and then you're going to either add something or subtract something, close parentheses, squared. Now this number will change, but it's going to be a constant though on this side. So 3 plus 4, in this case it's 4, but you're always going to have a constant on this side, and it could be a fraction. So if you get a fraction over here, that's okay. We should be okay using fractions. It's not that big of a deal. But right now we've got a nice integer here that we can work with. So every single time that you complete the square, you can go straight from here to this step. Okay, but keep in mind that this 4, this constant, will be different from problem to problem. But this side, you can go ahead and set up because it's always going to be something of this form. Okay, it's going to have something like this. Now, we're not using x here, we're using a. A is our variable, so let's replace that x with an a. Okay, we've replaced that x with an a. Well, actually, I don't really like that, so let me just erase that a and rewrite this with the a. So we've got a, and then squared is equal to 4. Now the question becomes, what do we need to add in here? What do we need to add or subtract inside the parentheses? Well, it's really easy. It's just half b. So we know b is 2, half that is 1. That's what we add inside here. Now, we're almost done, right? That was very, very easy. Now, just to recap, okay, this part of the equation, the left-hand side of the equation, is equal to this. So this is the same. If you were to evaluate this and that, you would get the exact same answer. Okay? And since this is equal to that, and this expression is equal to 4, we know that this is also equal to 4. Okay? Now at this point, it's just very straightforward to solve. So I'll come up here to start to solve. So to get rid of that square, I take the square root of both sides. So a plus 1 squared is equal to the square root of 4. Okay, now the reason I do that, okay, how am I going to get rid of this square? I'm going to take the square root. That's going to make that 2 disappear. But whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. So I get a plus 1 is equal to the square root of 4. Now this is where things get a little tricky when we're trying to evaluate the square root of 4. So this is saying the square root of 4. So it's really asking what two numbers can be multiplied together to give me 4. And really there are two answers. This could be positive 2, because positive 2 times positive 2 will give me 4. Or this could be negative 2, because negative 2 times negative 2 is also equal to 4. So we have two possible solutions here. Now, typically, instead of writing it out like two different expressions here, typically you'll see people write it out like this. Just a plus or minus, or I'm sorry, a plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 2. So all of this is saying the same thing. So you can either write it out as a plus 1 is equal to positive 2, or a plus 1 is equal to negative 2, or you can write these two as one expression like this. A plus or minus, a plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 2. All of these are saying the exact same thing. So let's go to the next slide and go ahead and finish up this problem by solving for my variable a. So we know that we have a plus 1 is equal to, we said, positive 2 first. And then we also said that a plus 1 could be negative 2. A plus 1 is negative 2. Now, go ahead and try. Try to solve for a in both equations and see what you get. Now, if you did this correctly, what the first step would be is to subtract 1, which gives me a is equal to 2 minus 1, which is just going to be 1. And then on the other side, we're going to subtract 1, and we end up getting a is equal to negative 2 minus 1, which is negative 3. So these are our two solutions to this quadratic, and we have used completing the square to solve. All right, so if you have any questions about this, now's the time to ask before you go on to the next video.